ditampilkan kurikulum vitae-nya.
Bu Retno itu sudah.
Oh, sampun.
Bentar,
halo.
bentar.
Gimana, Mas?
Sudah tampil, Bu. Enggak terlihat di layarnya Bu Retno.
Di tempatku enggak kelihatan. Oke, kalau sudah tampil nggak apa-apa ya.
Gitu.
Mas sudah lihat ya. Oke, Miss Hazel, Tequis Victoriano is still young, 1976. Oh my God, 45 years old. She is a dean of the Graduate School Psychology Full-Time Faculty at the San Pedro College University. Okay, she is Master in Industrial Organizational Psychology. So we will hear the lecture, and Miss Hazel, I give you 1 hour to give your lecture. So we will enough time to question and answer session after that. Okay, Miss Hazel, I give all of the time for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about organizational change in your university. I hope we will have an insightful morning, and I hope to hear from your own experiences as well later. So please allow me to share my screen.
Okay.
Okay, so the topic assigned to me is on organizational change, its psychological effects and strategies for coping. So we will be guided, or at the end of 2 hours, we will be learning or meeting the following objectives. Describe organizational development, organizational change, and organizational change management. Second, explain the why and how of organizational change. And lastly, discuss psychological effects and strategies for organizational change. So these are basically our topics: introduction of organizational change, the why and how, the psychological effects, and the strategies to cope. So when we say organizational change, we look at ourselves as members of the organization. The smallest organization we belong is our family. So in every day, we face changes and we face different challenges. Whether it is a simple change in the weather, changes in our schedule, changes in our day-to-day life, and even changes in our routines. Change affects us all, and we each deal with change differently. Change, according to Heraclitus, is the only constant in life, the only thing we can be sure will happen. In this time of COVID-19 pandemic, change is a fact in businesses today, where all employees, organizations, and even you, our dear students, have to cope and needs to adopt in order to survive in this time of pandemic. Now, so first, before I will discuss what organizational development is, what organizational change is, let me hear from you first. I would like you to go to www.menti.com and use this code 615-10738. Please go to www.menti.com and use the code 615-10738. Then I will shift my screen so that I can share your responses. Okay, so the first question is, what is your understanding of organizational change? Again, I would like you to open your www.menti.com and use the code 615-10738. And please, you are given a maximum of 3 answers for you to answer this question. By the way, there is no right or wrong answer. I just need your opinion regarding what is your understanding of organizational change.
I'm sorry, ma'am. The code, would you like to repeat the code?
615-10738. 615-10738. Just give us your opinion on your understanding regarding organization change or organizational change. It can be just a single word, or it can also be a phrase. It's up to you. Okay, so we have responses here now. We have organizational change might progress, might have different approach to something, or might regress. How about others? This is done to be better. This is evolving, and it progress. How about others? Okay, someone talked about innovation, survive, process of diagnosing, different culture. You are more flexible when you do organizational change, face new challenging or challenges. The goal is to change. What else? It's something that is situational change or cultural change. Okay. Organizational change is a vessel. Involving. Okay. So I'll give you a countdown now. It is a process of diagnosing. It is a change of the value. It is a change in the culture. It is different from before. Okay. It refers to the structural change. It makes the organization. What else? It is towards the desired future. Or a different organization. Thank you so much for your responses. And indeed, no, you have expressed your ideas about organizational change, which for me is an indication that you already have an idea of what organizational change is. Now, let's proceed to the next question. In terms of goals or directions, is organizational development the same with organizational change? All you need to do is just to choose either true or false. So we have already here responses. No? So a number of you already said that it is true. And there are also said that the statement above is false. Again, there is no right or wrong answer. So I'll start the countdown now. Now, based on the pie graph, majority of our participants here said that organizational development and organizational change is actually the same in terms of goals or directions. Now, let me go back to my slide. So what is organizational development? It is the process of improving organizational performance by making organization-wide rather than individual changes. It is a field of study that helps organizations build their capacity to change and achieve greater effectiveness by developing, improving, and reinforcing strategies, structures, and processes. While organizational change refers to the actions in which a company or a business alters a major component of its organization, such as its culture, the underlying technologies or infrastructure it uses to operate, or its internal processes. While change management is the method of leveraging change to bring about a successful resolution, and it typically includes three major phases: from preparation, implementation, and follow-through, or the monitoring and evaluation. So what is the difference between organizational change and organizational development? When we say organizational development, it takes a longer and more holistic approach to change. It looks at the entire organization as a complex network of systems, while at the same time, it is concerned with the professional development of individual employees. Moreover, organizational development include strategic planning, leadership development, professional development, coaching, and even work-life balance. While on the other hand, organizational change and change management usually focus on specific situations to take the organization. So the question on whether they are different or they are the same, the answer basically is closer to true. Okay? If you take a look at the diagrams here, in terms of direction, organizational change and organizational development has the same direction. They have the same intention, that is to implement change. However, in terms of focus and in terms of scope, OD or organizational development takes a broader scope, while organizational change takes a look at a certain department or a certain unit in the organization, while organizational development takes a look at the entire organization. Even if, for example, the organization or the company has expanded already to the different countries, then when we talk of OD, the interventions that will be employed are actually covering the entire organization, including those from the expanded organizations. Now, so why organizations change? Here in the picture, you can find internal forces and external forces that could drive the organization to change. When we say internal forces, these are factors experienced within the organization or inside the organization. What are those factors? When employees' productivity is already poor, when employees are no longer satisfied, when there are customer dissatisfaction reports, when there are new tasks or new mission, when there is new leadership, and when there is conflict, that is the reason why organizations should change. And on the other hand, we take a look at the external factors. What are those external factors? These are factors outside the organization. We have the general environment, the social, the cultural, the demographic, like the profile of the employees, the profile of the market. For example, what are the changes that could be installed by the organizations once they hire the graduates of the online platform? When competencies are lacking, when skills are lacking because they are just in the online platform. This could be some of the reasons why we have to install changes. Another is political change. Okay. Economic and technological. When we say political, this is a part of our own.
Cleansing milk atau cleansing water? Cleansing milk.
Am I still audible?
Oh.
Am I still audible?
Yes,
Can you
ma'am.
hear me? Yeah, thank you so much. So other reasons are economic, technological, and political. Let's talk about the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. In Davao City, Philippines, where I am staying, a lot of companies has actually closed down. Hotels are the primary affected industry when COVID-19 affected the global the world. And economically, we are all suffering. No one has been exempted from all of COVID-19.
break stuff.
If you take a look at the number of employees who have been terminated from work and who are still searching for work and who are still unemployed, I took a look at the data of Indonesia. The unemployment rate of Indonesia is 7.07 as of February 28, 2021. While in the Philippines, we have a higher unemployment rate. As of September 2021, our unemployment rate reached as high as 8.9%. These are the unemployed, no? That means these are the employees who are affected by the changes installed by organization. And why organizations change? It's actually because of the impact of COVID, in which businesses are affected economically and perhaps technologically. Now, in terms of the technological, you are not exempted. Right now, we are using the Zoom platform. These are the new ways, the new ways of learning in which teachers were trained how to use and operate Zoom platform as a means to continue our education. Okay? No COVID can stop anyone to stop schooling. So that's basically technological, which can actually, when there are changes in technology, there can also be changes in the organization. And as to business environment, like if there are competitions, like in Davao City, Philippines, prior to COVID, schools in Metro Manila have already expanded. And so pirating of teachers already happened. Okay. So because of these changes in the external environment, our organizations will also do re-strategizing in order to, one, if they are pirating our employees, we have to take a look at our own salary structure, whether we are still competitive with the outside market. So according to Stobierski 2020, these are the 4 reasons why organizations change. New leadership controlling the company or within its departments, shifts in organizational team structure, especially like if you're going to expand or if you're going to close down some departments or merge your company with other organization, that is not one shift that we can identify. The implementation of the new technology and the adoption of new business models. For example, from a traditional organization to an organization employing total quality management or employing balanced scorecard, or to an organization adapting to international standards, or you want your organization to be accredited by ISO, then these are the new business models that can basically prompt organizations to change. Now, how to carry out organizational change? There are 3 according to Cotter and Company. First, analyze the situational factors. Second, determine the optimal speed of change. And third, consider methods for managing resistance. The first one, in analyzing situational factors, you have to ask these 4 basic questions. How much and what kind of resistance do we anticipate? You know, in any resistance, in any changes in the organizations, there can always be resistance. And resistance can differ according and very unique to each organization. More resistance will be experienced when the organization is unionized. Okay? Because there is now the union whom you will be consulting with whenever you do changes in the organization. Another question that you will be asking under situational factors is, what's my position relative to resistors in terms of my power and the level of trust between us? And who, me or others, has the most accurate information about what changes are needed? And lastly, you can ask, how urgent is our situation? Is it so risky for the organization if we will not carry out the changes? And after analyzing the situational factors, then you can now determine whether to, 1, move quickly with the change that you propose, or proceed slowly. So when do you move quickly? If it is risky for the organization not to change, or if you don't change, organization or the company will reduce its productivity, then you move quickly with the changes. On the other hand, when the resistance are intensive and extensive, then you move slowly. Proceed slowly with the planned changes until such time that the employees will embrace those changes. And then the third way to carry out organizational change is to consider methods for managing resistance. There are basically 4 methods given by the same author. The first one is education, in which you have to increase the awareness of your employees. You have to communicate to the employees the desired changes and reasons for such change. The second one is participation. In participation, you have to involve employees, particularly those resistors, or particularly those employees who are influential to other employees. Involve them in designing and implementing the change so that they can have that sense of ownership. The third method can be facilitation. You have to provide the skills training. You have to train your people on the different changes that might be happening in your organization. And you have to provide emotional support, because you know when there are changes installed in the organization, the comfort zone of our employees are actually affected. And so employees become upset, employees becoming sad and worries a lot Thus, you need to provide them with emotional support. And last is negotiation. Negotiate. When you negotiate, there is a win-win solution. The employees can benefit, the employer or the organization or the company can also benefit. So how can you negotiate? You can offer incentives for making the change. Now, in the case of the Philippines, for example, during the onset of COVID-19 pandemic, there are a lot of companies who are affected. And there are a lot of employees who have been terminated with authorized cause. And so for the employees to welcome all these changes that is affecting them as a person, their family, and their profession, they are given a higher package. Like, for example, in one company in the Philippines, particularly in Davao City, some employees are offered 70% of their salary, multiply it by their years of service. So it's actually going beyond what the government is requiring. Thus, there are employees who are actually happy with the changes. They did not resisted with those changes because there were incentives given to make transition with their lives. Now, what are the two types of organizational change? We have adaptive changes and we have transformational changes. When we say adaptive changes, these changes are minor modifications and adjustments that managers fine-tune and implement within a department or within the organization. While when we say transformational changes, these are often pursued in response to external forces, such as the emergence of a disruptive new competitor. Okay? And usually, transformational changes are massive changes in process, people, technology, just for you to compete. Now, what are the 5 stages during major organizational change? There are actually 5 identified by Carnal as stipulated in the book of Amos. So we have denial, defense, discarding, adaptation, and internalization. So during the denial stage, employees deny that any changes will actually place. They try to convince themselves that the old way is working and create reasons why the proposed changes will never work. So basically, that is normal. That is normal that employees will fight with the managers, fight with the people that install those changes. The second stage is defense or becoming defensive. When employees begin to believe that change will actually occur, they become defensive. They try to justify their positions and ways of doing things. Like, for instance, employees writing the management a position paper saying no to the proposed changes. And in a more negative extent, employees will form rallies, or worst, they will form strikes in order not to install those changes. The third one is discarding. Employees begin to realize not only that the organization is going to change, but the employees are going to have change as well. So here in the discarding phase or discarding stage, employees is now beginning to understand the importance of organizational change. And the fourth stage, which is adaptation, here employees test the new system, learn how it functions, and employees begin to make adjustments in the way they perform. And lastly, internalization. Employees here become immersed in the new culture and comfortable with the new system. Employees have accepted their new co-workers and environments, especially if those changes involves hiring for new employees who are perceived to have more competence, more knowledge, and more skills, better skills to do the job. All these stages stipulated or stated by Carnal was actually experienced by us when COVID-19 struck the world. When we were told to use Zoom, to use Google Meet, to have asynchronous classes via our learning management systems, we all resisted. When in fact, our students here once said that they will do semestral break, they will not enroll. And so it actually affected, no? It actually puzzled at the same time the management. And so to have a win-win solution with the problems of students regarding internet, the problems of students regarding gadgets and others, we have to meet halfway. Like every other week, if this week we have synchronous classes, next week we have asynchronous classes. And for the faculty, we have installed different trainings. We call it boot camps, in which the faculty are taught about Canva. We were taught about Google Classroom, Kuiper Learning Management System. We were taught how to use Zoom and its breakout rooms or poll. We were taught how to use Google Meet and a lot more. Until such time that we are able to embrace with the changes, drastic changes at that, brought about by COVID-19 pandemic. And so look at us at the moment. We are now able to internalize the use of the Zoom, in which we are very comfortable to just join any webinars or any classes that we have. Now, before I will proceed to the next topic, which is already the psychological effects of organizational change, I would like to ask you to reflect on yourself. I would like you to go to www.menti.com and use the code 683729. www.menti.com, use the code 683-729-64. 683-729-64. I will change my screen to the Mentimeter. So these are the questions. Okay, this is something personal. What were the changes you experienced during this time of COVID-19 pandemic? So we have now here answers: being at home more than I used to, moving less. Who else? How did COVID-19 pandemic change your life? There is lifestyle, mindset, and habits. No? There are changes in the lifestyle, mindset, and habits. There are online classes and online assignments that are attended to. Online colleague can join online colleague in another place without must to be there. Moving to online class habits. What else? So here we are now saying that indeed the pandemic has changed something from our own way of doing things. Not much. My lifestyle is pretty much the same even before COVID-19. It's lonely. Okay. Let me start the countdown now. There are online class lecture wherein you're gonna meet people outside your school perhaps, or we're gonna meet, like it's easy for us to do faculty exchange at the moment. Okay? What else? Group work is more hard since we can meet online or anytime. And then I feel stressed and unhappy during pandemic. Have no money, so more grateful. Improved quality time and communication with family. Okay? How about the second? Let's try to take a look at how did you cope or manage with the changes? Like, for example, if you were sad and you were unhappy, how did you deal with it? If you are lonely, how did you deal with it? Wow, simply living with it. Okay? Learn a new skill. Perhaps you learned how to bake. No, that's a new skill that pandemic has allowed us to enjoy. How about others? Flowing like flowing water. So you're just journeying with the changes. It's also good. Not to, in order not to stress yourself, flowing like a flowing water. Live with it. Okay? How about others? Learn new languages, read more, do assignments with extra effort. That's more positive. Okay? Learn new things. Let me start the countdown now. So I think accept it. Okay? Pray. That's I think one for me personally, that this is a very important coping. Pray. Pray to our God. Pray to Allah. Pray to God, to Jesus, whatever religion we have. We pray that this pandemic will be over and that we can go back to our normal life. Let it flow, learning new skill. Okay? Let me go back to my slide. Now, let's talk about the psychological effects of organizational change. Basically, when we talk of organizational change, These are the common things that happen in the organization or experienced by the employees. There could be salary cuts or reduction in the pay or benefits, or there could be loss of benefits. Worst, there could be job loss or loss of jobs. There could be downgrading in job position. If your position at the moment is supervisory, it can be placed to a rank and file employees. There can be downsizing in which employees are terminated with just cause. There could also be job relocation when the management is expanding its organization. So with all these changes, with all these things that might be experienced during organizational change, how can or what is its impact to the employees? The first one that I can identify is poor interpersonal relationships at work. When there is poor interpersonal relationship at work, employees are prone to conflicts. Why? Because there are now disruptions in their comfort zone, and psychologically, employees are affected. And when employees are affected from within because comfort zone are disrupted, they can now experience intrapersonal crisis. And because they experience intrapersonal crisis, they will now have poor interpersonal relationships at work. That means when they deal with other employees, they might be very hard, they might be very, very angry, or they can be just neglecting that there are others that exist in the organization. And this will ultimately ruin the work environment. It will reduce the productivity of the employees and eventually will affect productivity of the entire organization. The second one is employees could have low morale. Employee morale is a silent killer of workplace productivity and performance. When employees feel down and disengaged, they may not work with quality. They may not be inspired, and they will be lacking innovation. The next one is, the next impact of organizational change is it will affect the well-being and the mental health of employees. And according to Miyake Kangas et al., organizational change causes chronic work stress and fatigue. When there is chronic stress and fatigue, there is emotional exhaustion, lack of energy, and loss of satisfaction with work. Another experience or another factor could be feeling a sense of helplessness. A person who have this feeling of helplessness can be difficult to stay motivated to change his or her situation. And worse, when the person or when the employee have this feeling of helplessness, the employee might commit suicide as the worst scenario. And there are now reports that there are employees who committed suicide because of the impact of pandemic. The next one is anxiety and somatic problems. Generally, we define anxiety as the fear of the unknown. When we worry a lot, when we are feeling sad, when we are fearful of what will happen in the future, that is anxiety. And then when we are anxious, we develop these somatic problems, the body pains, the body malaise, as if we are sick, as if we are having cancer. We are experiencing symptoms of the different diseases. In reality, it cannot be backed up with laboratories. But merely because of the organizational changes, our hormones are also reacting. And because we are anxious, because we have somatic problems, we tend to lack concentration and focus. In which, when we are lacking in terms of concentration and focus, this might eventually result to poor decision making. And poor decision making can result to errors and losses. And of course, that's lack of focus and concentration. Now, on the other hand, changes in the organization can also increase morale of employees. It can improve current work conditions, and it can also allow the employees to learn and master new competencies. So these are the effects which could be positive in nature. Now, how to cope with organizational change? I would like to present this in two ways. From the point of view of the employer and the employee. What can the employer do in order that organizational changes can be coped well, easily, or smoothly? The first one is it should be planned carefully. The when, the how, the why the change is taking place, the outline, the management should outline the changing responsibilities for anyone who is affected. There should be very clear timeline of those changes. And of course, there should be plans on how to address resistance among employees. The second one is be transparent. Transparency help your employees feel more comfortable with the changes. The third one is communicate or even over communicate. You have to explain to the employees why the change is happening. You can actually invite your employees to have a meeting with you, to have an informal conversation with you, in order that you can grasp or you can get ideas and feedbacks from your employees. The fourth one is create a roadmap, because creating a roadmap help your employees understand where the organization is at the moment, where the organization has been, and where the organization is going. The fifth one is provide training, especially when there are changes in technologies, just like that what we experienced during the time of COVID-19 pandemic. Our organizations, our schools, our universities and colleges offered a training to all employees and even to students in order that we can adapt to the changes in this new normal. The sixth one is invite participation. Give your employees a chance or an opportunity to be heard. And lastly, build strong leadership. Be an inspiring leader. Demonstrate strategic thinking. Be open-minded and be flexible. Just like what you said a while ago. Live with it. If you are the leader, provide opportunity, open your mind, be flexible so that the employees can journey with you, okay? Can live with the changes that you want to install, can accept the changes that you want to install in your organization. Okay. And on the perspective of the employees, this is how we should cope. First, we have to actively engage in organizational change. When there are meetings called for us, we have to be present. We should listen carefully. We should ask questions. Because when we are clarified with the changes that will be given or that will be installed by our company, by our organization, by our college, or by our university, we can change our perspective. We can change the way we think and the way we perceive things. And then we can embrace with the new opportunities and accept rather than resist. No? One of you said a while ago, accept, because this is the reality. Although on the other hand, if, for example, you cannot really ride or you cannot really journey with the changes installed by the organization or by the company, you can avoid and you can withdraw by voluntary resignation. That is your choice, basically. So I hope you learned something. These are my references. I used one book and I used journal articles in my presentation. I am now ready for your questions and for your clarifications with regards to the topic. I hope you learned something from what I discussed today.
Okay, guys, you can raise your hand and open your mic and give a question to Miss Hazel, or you can type on your chatting room to type the question. Please, we will wait the question, and I hope all of you can learn about organizational change and how to cope with that. Okay. While we wait for the question, how about if the company goes bankrupt? So the employer maybe cannot give negotiation with the employee because he didn't have any money again. How about that?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Ma'am Retno, no? When the company is becoming bankrupt, they can actually, in the Philippines, companies can apply for closure, and even under the law, the companies in the Philippines are required to pay a certain amount of separation pay to the employees, and if they are bankrupt because of like pandemic, of course, employees are receiving lower than what is supposed to be received. But in the Philippine context, because we have a law here in the Philippines, there is a prescribed computation by our Department of Labor. When your company is closing, that's basically under authorized cause. No, any company when they are losing, they can file for that. So there is a law protecting the employees, like the list that the employee receives when they are terminated with authorized cause is 1/2 month of their salary, monthly salary, times the years of service. So that's how they are paid when the company is shutting down, or when the company is redirecting its business, and thus they have to terminate employees, but they have to follow the computation provided by the law. That's the minimum. However, there are companies now who are giving more, basically. They are giving beyond the law. I don't know. I have not, sorry, Ma'am Retno, I have not read the labor laws in Indonesia.
Okay. Doesn't matter. I see.
I did not read the laws in Indonesia regarding termination of employees. So what I actually explained a while ago, how we do it in the Philippines.
I think it's the same in Indonesia, maybe. Now, how about the research in organizational change in Philippines? Maybe you can explain to our student how about the sexist topic, maybe in the Philippines to research.
Yeah. With regards, is that referring to the different topics for research? Okay. In the Philippines, the research agenda for organizational change is basically related to like well-being, of employees in this time of pandemic. Quality of life of employees during this pandemic, mental health of employees in this time of pandemic, especially that the work from home scheme was actually installed by most companies in the Philippines. And even in my own company, as an administrator, we work 2 days on site, and we work 3 days work from home. And all our teachers are working from home. So, when you are at home, I can relate to the responses of the students a while ago in the mentimeter.com, that some of you become bored in the house. Although there is a positive, because you are in the house, you're in your home, you are now building a better relationship with your family. But with my students, when I ask them, how are they in this time of pandemic? They all wanted to have that face-to-face. Why? Because their parents are distracting them in their studies, when in fact I have a student who is doing an errand while I am having classes. And so she cannot answer when I ask her during recitation. And that she messaged me, she gave me a personal message of, these are the crises that the students are facing. And so with our parents who are working, they I don't know in your schools, but here in the public schools, if your children are enrolled in public schools, they have these modules with them, modular. The approach to learning is modular. When your children are enrolled in private schools, they have asynchronous and synchronous classes. Now, for parents whose children are still very young, for example, in the nursery, in grade 1, grade 2, in which the role of parents is very critical, then parents are having problems. That's why they have problems with their well-being, they have problems with their mental health, they have quarrels with their husband who is to assist their children while I am working. So these are very potential for research, because after all, if our employees are now burned out and stressed, it will affect productivity of the entire organization. Did I answer your question, Ma'am Red?
Yes. I think in Indonesia is same like that. There are a lot of problems for a housewife worker mom.
That's true. It's also the same in the Philippines, especially when your children are still very young. And you know, when they are in school, you just drop them at the gate and then the guard will pick them up and then send these small children to their classrooms. But right now, in this time of pandemic, parents are the teachers of their own children. They have to assist. And so it's eating up a lot of time. And another thing, as a worker, this is my experience. Right now, in this time of pandemic, a lot has changed. There are no boundaries in the work. Like during the face-to-face, if our work in the Philippines is 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the afternoon, in the COVID-19 pandemic, even towards midnight, we have meetings. And that will disturb us mentally.
24 hours.
Yeah, we work 24 hours. We work 24/7. So that's basically, these are issues.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, these are issues
Yeah.
that we can address perhaps in research. Perhaps, Ma'am Retno, we can do collaborative research, Indonesia's perspective and Philippines perspective. That's good, no?
It's
Our students perhaps can
interesting,
engage.
interesting
Yeah, very
topics.
interesting. Yes, very interesting.
Yes. I think now the student or the employers or a lot of people feel Zoom fatigue.
Yeah, Zoom
Zoom
fatigue.
Yes.
Very true. That is why when I teach, no, even with graduate school, when I teach, every after 1 hour, for example, of discussion, I give them screen break. I call that screen break. Screen break for 5 minutes so that they can open their eyes and not to experience Zoom fatigue. And in our school, we also install this synchronous and asynchronous classes. So if during this week for example is our asynchronous classes, students will be learning on their own via our learning management system, which is Quipper. And next week we will do Zoom lectures, no, with the students. So these are just few of the changes that our college has installed. That is to address, because you know, I don't know in Indonesia, in the Philippines, we have a lot of problems related to internet connectivity. There are areas in the Philippines that has no good internet connection. Thus,
Really?
students, yeah, in the provinces particularly. And because of another thing, because of the utilization, the increasing utilization of internet.
Maybe the server is very busy.
Very true.
Okay, the student, if you have any question for Miss Hazel, because our time is so limited. This is a Friday and the student, the boy student have to Friday prayer. Maybe we will take a break in 11:30 maybe. Okay, while we still wait the question from the student, please raise your hand or you just type in the chat room. This interesting topic, organizational change, psychological effect, and how to cope. Oke. Ayo teman-teman, mungkin ada pertanyaan yang ingin disampaikan. Oke, Andika bagus. I will read or you read your question.
Yeah, I can
Say yourself. Okay, Andika bagus. Hello,
What
I'm
characteristics should a leader have in this pandemic situation? Explain what you think about miscommunication between organization members that occurs in a pandemic situation like this, and what should we do? Okay, so the first question is, what what characteristics should a leader have in this time of pandemic? I should say that leaders in this time of pandemic should have a strong leadership skills. They should be inspiring. Why? Because all people now, us, we are upset, we are sad, we have a lot of problems. We are facing a lot of challenges. And thus, we need a leader who is inspiring, at the same time, a leader who is decisive. Like, for example, in the Philippines at the moment, because our mayor, for example, in Davao City is very strong, is a charismatic leader and manifests a strong leadership skills. And even in the Philippines, no, the president, we have now policies in the Philippines that with regards to vaccine, for example, there are now policies in the Philippines that employers, private employers can let non-vaccinated employees stop from working. Okay? That's how strong our president is. And even through the IATF guidelines, that has been given to us. And so employees or people who opted not to be vaccinated are now processing their vaccination, because that is the only way we can arrest COVID-19 and live a normal life. Our economics have been affected so much. In Davao City, for example, the best or one of the best hotel and the biggest hotel in downtown area in Davao City closed because of pandemic. The Marco Polo Hotel. The Marco Polo Hotel, you might be familiar because that's a world-renowned hotel. That's the first hotel that closed down during the time of pandemic. And so in this time of pandemic, an inspiring leader, a charismatic leader, a decisive leader are the leaders that we need in this time of pandemic, so that the strategies that can be created are something that could be beneficial and that could influence people within our organization. The second question is with regards to miscommunication. Yeah, thank you so much for this question. So as a leader, communication is one of the most important skill that we should possess. We should be able to communicate or over-communicate so that our colleagues, our people, our staff will be aware of where we are going as an organization. When you don't communicate, there will be chaos. That's the result of miscommunication. People will not have a common understanding on where the organization is going. And so, because employees don't understand the directions of the organization, there will be chaos in the organization. There will be conflict among employees in the organization. Did I answer your question, Andika?
very clear, ma'am.
Heart emoticon?
Very clear, because he can open his microphone. Okay. Maybe the next question. We still wait. Okay. I think your lecture is very clear. So the student didn't know how to give a question. Very clear because you explain everything about how organizational change, how the impact, and how we can cope to the changes. Okay, ma'am. I think we have. Terima kasih, sama-sama. We are very pleasure to have you in the session. Maybe in the next time we can join research between San Pedro and Psikologi.
Sure. That would be very exciting, Ma'am Retno. We can do research on world well-being, perhaps, or quality of life of our students, no, in the Indonesia's perspective and Filipino perspective. That could be very exciting.
Okay. Thank you for your coming in Unissula. Maybe next time you can go visit to Indonesia.
Sure.
And we can go to your university. So maybe I hope the life come to new, not only new normal, but normal life. So we can have many collaboration in the research or lecture exchange. Thank you, Miss Hazel. Okay, see you next time. And the student, thanks for your coming. Terima kasih, sangat jelas sekali penjelasan dari Miss Hazel. Dan saya akhiri sesi ini karena memang teman-teman yang laki-laki harus Friday prayer, Jumatan gitu, dan harus bersiap-siap. Sekali lagi, terima kasih. Thank you, Miss Hazel, and see you next time. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ma'am Retno, can we have a photo ops just for documentation for my report? Thank you so much, our dear students. If you can open your camera, I will be appreciating it much. I just need to document.
Teman-teman mahasiswa, tolong open kameranya sebentar aja supaya kita bisa foto. Karena dari tadi kalian tidak open cam gitu ya.
Thank you so much. You're so beautiful and handsome, our dear students. I am hoping for a very successful life ahead of you when you start. Sige. So I'll start off with the first slide. Just smile. 1, 2, 3. Next slide, the second slide. The third slide. The fourth slide. The fifth slide. The sixth slide. The seventh slide. And the last slide. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Ma'am, for moderating today's session.
Oke, terima kasih.
Are they all taking psychology?
Yes. They are in the sophomore. Maybe in 5th semester, I think, and the 3rd semester maybe.
So these are all sophomore students?
Yes.
So you have more students basically?
Yes, maybe in four class for the management organization. Okay. We record our session and we conducting the streaming YouTube maybe, I think.
Yes. And then I'll just ask a copy of the video. I ask
Yes,
permission
I will
to
send,
come
and
to- Yeah,
would you
thank
like to send your